Russian missiles striking 5 railroad stations in central and western Ukraine in the span of 1 hour yesterday. There is fresh fighting right now in the south and eastern parts of that nation. Buildings damaged in the port city of Mariupol after Russia renewed its attacks on a steel plant where Ukrainian soldiers were holed up. Russia with its starkest warning yet. Moscow's top diplomat accusing NATO of engaging in a proxy war that has created a serious risk of a worldwide nuclear conflict.
Really, the risks are really considerable, and I would not want to elevate those risks artificially. Many would like that. The danger is serious, real, and we must not underestimate it.
Let's go now to Ramstein U.S. Air Base in western Germany, where Fox News national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin is speaking with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin right now. He's hosting dozens of other nations there for Ukraine defense talks. And now, Jennifer.
Thank you, Harris. I'm joined right now with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who just completed a day-long meeting with 40 nations for military aid to Ukraine. Thank you, Secretary Austin, for joining us today. I want to ask you about something you just said. You just said that you expect at the end of this conflict that Ukraine will apply to join NATO again. Is that something you spoke to President Zelensky about during your trip?
Let me make sure I clarify, Jen, what I said. I said that certainly don't want to speculate on what could happen, that's a sovereign choice, sovereign decision. Right now, that's not in the cards, but of course, I think any kind of speculation about the future and NATO and Ukraine applying to NATO, of course, you've heard President Zelensky say himself that that's off the table for the foreseeable future.
An hour after you left Kyiv with Secretary Blinken, there were Russian missiles that struck the rail lines, 5 spots along the rail line. You traveled out by rail. Were they targeting you? Were they targeting the U.S. delegation?
Hard to know what they were targeting. I think they're looking to take out capability that Ukraine uses to resupply itself and move arms in and out. And so the railway writ large is a target that you'd expect for them to go after. But hard to say, and I doubt that they had specific knowledge of where we were at any one point in time.
We just heard Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warn in an interview that the world could be on the verge of a World War III. He said that the potential for a nuclear war is real. Do you consider this hyperbole, or is this a threat? What's your response?
What I think it is, Jen, is it's dangerous, and any kind of rhetoric like that, I think is unhelpful. We've said over and over again that a nuclear war cannot be won by either side, and so I think saber rattling and rhetoric like that is just unhelpful, and so again. Hard to say what's motivating Mr. Lavrov, but again, I think that kind of talk should be avoided.
How would you respond if Russia used a tactical nuclear weapon?
I don't want to speculate on any kind of response that we would make. What my job, Jen, is to offer the president a range of options for anything that happens, and I feel confident that I can do that no matter what happens. And I think the president feels confident in not only our ability to protect ourselves, but my ability to offer a range of options that gives the president adequate choices.
Yesterday, you said the goal is to weaken Russia at the end of this conflict. Why not say defeat Russia? Are you expecting Russia to pull back to the pre-February 24th lines, or the pre-2014 lines?
To be clear, we're not in a fight with Russia. Ukraine is in a current struggle with Russia, and what Ukraine desperately wants is to make sure that it can protect its sovereign territory. And we want to make sure that we're helping Ukraine do that. And so what you've seen us do from the very beginning And even before this conflict, this invasion started, we were providing Ukraine with security assistance to be able to defend itself if it ever needed to. And of course, once it was invaded, we and our allies picked up the pace in terms of providing meaningful security assistance. So the things that you saw that we provided before and during the conflict, I think have been very, very helpful. And we had it there in sufficient time for Ukraine to be able to fight a credible fight and to be able to blunt Russia's advance and eventually repel Russia's advance in the north there around Kyiv.
How soon after February 24th did U.S. weapons start flowing into Ukraine?
They were flowing even before and during. We were providing a number of types of munitions to Ukraine, leading up to the invasion, and we continued to do that.
Russia's warned that U.S. sending weapons, if you don't stop sending weapons, that they will target those supply lines, target those weapons shipments. What is the significance of today's conference, and what is your response to Russia's warning to stop sending weapons?
Well, today's conference is all about making sure that we can continue to provide Ukraine what it needs to be successful in the fight today. And as the fight has evolved, you've seen their needs change from a lot of, at the beginning, a lot of anti-armor and anti-aircraft weaponry. And again, they've been very successful. But as a fight in the south and east of the country continues, that's a different kind of terrain. They'll need different kinds of things to be able to shape that fight a bit better. So we're looking at long-range artillery and tanks and armored vehicles and those types of things.
Was there a change of mood in the types of weapons that are being donated from today's conference? The NATO allies, or the other allies who donated today?
Change of mood?
From when this started, do you feel like people are now willing to donate weapons that maybe they weren't willing to? Take the Germans, for instance.
I think what we've seen throughout is that people have been willing to help Ukraine defend itself from the very beginning, and we want to make sure again that they continue to provide the right kinds of things, and again, as this goes along, I think as the Ukrainians have demonstrated that they have a will to fight and they have the ability to be successful. Certainly countries want to support them in their effort to defend their democracy.
Do you think if these weapons had been in Ukraine back in January that Putin might not have invaded? Was there anything you could have done to deter Putin?
Well, I truly believe that the Ukrainians had the types of things that they needed to be successful. They were successful in stopping the advance of the Russians in a number of places around the country and defeating the Russians in the north around Kyiv. So I think they had the right types of things from the beginning. As this changes, then we need to change the kinds of things that they will change the kinds of things that they're asking for, and we need to support that. So.
You brought these 40 nations together, and only in 1 week. This came together in 1 week. And even in the last 24 hours, 10 more nations RSVP'd yes to come to talk about security assistance to Ukraine. Are you worried that this might turn into a proxy war between the U.S. and Russia? Is this turning into a proxy war?
No, it's not. This is clearly Ukraine's fight, and Ukraine's neighbors and allies and partners are stepping up to make sure that they have what they need in order to be successful. The Ukrainians are there fighting to protect their sovereignty, and they've been very, very impressive. I mean, the world's been has just looked at this with great admiration, with awe, actually, that they have been so successful, they have been so determined to protect their country, their democracy, their sovereign territory. Not just the soldiers, but family members, you name it. They want to be a sovereign, independent nation with a Democratic government.
What surprised you most during your trip into Kyiv to meet with President Zelensky?
I'm not sure that I was surprised by anything, Jen. As you would imagine, we always look very carefully at everything that's going on. I talk to Minister of Defense Reznikov frequently. Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, talks to his counterpart, and Secretary of State, same thing. So there's a constant dialogue. So we know what the situation is inside the city and on the ground. So I'm not sure that there were any surprises. But I tell you what, I was really grateful for the level of interaction and engagement that we had, we had a session that lasted for 3 hours, and that was really good.
How important is the next few weeks in the fight on the ground in Ukraine?
It's important. Every day is important in a fight like this, Jen, so we want to make sure that as this fight evolves, that the Ukrainians have what they need to be successful. And they can be successful. They believe that. And by the way, I believe that. And all of those nations that were in the room today, they believe that as well.
But you don't believe that this will end in a nuclear war?
I do not. And I certainly, everyone that's in this neighborhood, that's a part of the international community, is going to do everything that's necessary to make sure that doesn't happen. Having said that, Ukraine has a right to protect itself, and we're going to continue to support Ukraine.
Last question, the significance of today's meeting.
I think you've already highlighted it, Jen. In less than a week's time, we were able to bring together 40 nations, not just from Europe, but from nations from the Indo-Pacific and a number of places, because they are interested in helping a country protect its sovereign territory and also maintaining a rules-based international order. That is so important to countries all around the globe, and that's kind of what this was all about today. And so it's really refreshing and reassuring for the Ukrainians to see that level of support. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary.
You bet.
Harris, I'll
Jennifer,
send it back to you.
Excellent interview. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So glad we could take it live here.